really good professor. That means no brahmana, nothing. Business, vaishya. You have to make the university famous and profitable. And then you can proceed. That's very good knowledge. Knowledge which makes money. This is again the Vaishya philosophy. So, Grihasthas or Grihamedis, they are of course full of this. Where is the benefit? Where is the profit? What are we getting out of this? What do I get out of this? This is always the logic behind that. And this is of course sometimes clashing with the spiritual. Because spiritual means long-term benefit. This is called Preya and Shreya. Yeah? There's an instant, I want now this, what I'm getting, or there's a long-term benefit. A long-term benefit means automatically moral goodness. And and today all the economic development and all the progress, whatever they define as a progress, is entirely in a mode of passion, which is doomed to degenerate in a mode of ignorance, of course. Because there's no up, there's down. So you just go down. Krishna conscious passion, we also engage passion, of course. Actually, any kind of creation is powered by passion. But it's uplifting, because it's connected to a higher spiritual purpose. Things which are not connected this way will automatically degrade in ignorance and disintegrate. Therefore, at the end of Bhagavad Gita, boldly, Sanjaya is proclaiming, wherever there is Krishna and Arjuna, their presence will be manifested by prosperity, morality, religiousness, righteousness. This is the qualities which power and real progress. Where do you speak? Who's speaking about these things nowadays? Righteousness or religiosity or let's get it now. And the speed of the whole thing. You cannot imagine in America what business is defined as business. You know how to become a millionaire in 2 weeks in America? Multi-millionaire? You simply guess who is going to win which kind of football game. There's agencies and companies for that. People say, I would like to bet. There's nothing to do with sport, really. You just make money with the sport. And there's people betting. I think this team will win this on the weekend in this game like this. How many points? And they have a betting. There's a very intricate system. How much money you invest. Like you bet on horses, you bet on players, you bet on teams, you bet on this. And there's guys who do nothing else. They just sit in the office. And they just shift the money around and they bet. The volume of this, it's tax-free. The government doesn't have a control over this. It's not illegal either. So there's people making billions of this multi-billion-dollar business, just guessing, gambling. It's all gambling. So much money going around, and people lose. Also, of course, gambling means mostly losing. And people are so addicted. This is what they engage their brains with. This is what their whole energy goes into. The whole enterprise, the whole business is becoming like one big gambling machine. So of course it will collapse. It has to be destroyed. So Prajapati Daksha was not that kind of whimsical person, of course not. Very, very highly underrated personality. But still blind enough not to understand who is he dealing with. Not to understand the value, the real value of spiritual progress. So that's the lesson delivered through this whole story. That however religious you are, however Vedic you may be, Prabhupada says the clear priority, Prabhupada was bold. No one can speculate also why. I just seeing this bunch of confused people, what else do you want to preach? You want to facilitate Grihastha ashram? Prabhupada didn't start with that. He just said, you come here, surrender, brahmachari, sheva, sankirtan jaya, and that's it. Because nothing else you can do. But when they became more purified, then Prabhupada started to put it in a context with Vedic culture. They were not even qualified to become Grihastha. Very often brahmachari thinks that I'm falling down and I'm becoming Grihastha. Well, it has to be seen case to case. It's a very individual thing. But in many cases one can say, no falling down. Finally, you are progressing. You became a human being. Great. But as we see around us, to sustain even such situations is not easy. There's a disturbance on every corner. There was disturbance in Prajapati Daksha's life. Sons didn't become what he wanted them to be. And, at the end he had to take got a head of a goat. That's a little bit embarrassing. It's a great reaction. Just imagine this would be practiced today. Anybody who offends a devotee, a head of a goat. You would have whole farms of goats, full of foul people going, bleh. Because when you talk nonsense, a goat head is perfect. You just open the mouth and that's all that comes out. And everybody knows, oh, a goat has spoken, really. You never go out and listen to lectures from goats, really. I have a practical experience with goats. They talk the whole day, I tell you. They talk the whole day. They never stop. They talk even in their sleep. They don't sleep even much. They just talk all the time. All the time. You cannot tell a goat, shut up. You had some practical experience in a farm or something like this?
Which goats?
Goats, it's the worst. And I was thinking, when there are two goats, then they are happy, they will not call, because goat always wants to have a company. Then they are happy, they will shut up. No, I got it stereo, they never shut up. And all the time. And they are very jolly fellows, they always look and they like to jump high and jump down and, and they jump on your shoulder, It's like, this thing is very funny. You sit down and bang, you have a goat on your shoulder. Small goat, there are miniature goats. And he goes down, bloop, and he comes around again, bloop, and then bloop. In all day he can just jump on your shoulder and jump down again. This thing is just very funny. It's like goats have a reaction like this. They have a head of a goat. Well, actually it's already happening. Therefore Prabhupada said this is animal society because according to the consciousness, they already have a goat consciousness. Like goats, they have such an uncontrolled tongue. They will eat anything. They just go all the time. Sticking anything, whatever that they can nip a tree to the bark. All the leaves goes. They just strip it just from the leaves. Wherever they can reach it. So they eat even thorny things. They eat anything. Just nip it and taste it. It's not because of hunger. It's because of the taste. They can't control it. So what a reaction is that? So people are like that. When you go in these goodie shops, it's one of the most bizarre things. It's a whole room full of billions of goodies. Billions of things taste. And they go all the time. The tongue. So that's a goat. So Prajapati Daksha was at the end blessed with this kind of reaction. He was disgusted. The worst thing is that he had the head of a goat but the human consciousness. So he was fully aware, my God, I have a head of a goat. So he was so embarrassed, he just gave up in morning, it's just like, he was so disgusted and hate Prajapati Daksha. But that happens when you offend the pure devotees. So Prabhupada didn't make any secret out of this. Even he himself facilitated Grihastha Ashram. He took that risk and he arranged for devotees to be somewhat situated in the vicinity of Krishna consciousness. Still he had to face his defeat and still he turned out in the same direction. You have to renounce these things. They don't last. Whatever we do, they don't last. Therefore it's difficult for devotees. Just got an email, shall I marry or not? Very easy me to make this judgment, But this is a kind of standard question which comes almost to every brahmachari, and it's very difficult because the more we know in Krishna consciousness, the more we are aware of the consequences. On the other side, there's always a problem, there's more women as men. We don't see it in this temple. But in reality it is like that. There's always more women as men running around. What do you do with that? Muslims have a simple, solution to that. polygamy. And they even have a concept of Vaikuntha being the paradise of polygamy. Successful Muslim will go to heavens and there he will be enjoying with, I don't know how many, there are exact numbers for this.
72.
Huh?
72.
72. I don't know how they go to that number. But you know, but 72 women and just big time. That's the heavenly planets for a Muslim. You know, Muhammad, he said, you know, the Prophet said, whoever doesn't have at least 10 wives is not my follower. That's called regulation. So Muslim means grihastha ashrama at the best. It's not no sannyas. There's no Muslim sannyas. Of course they have sages too and they have this, but generally that's where it stops. Because we are dealing with extremely nasty people. So then they can manage to come to this. Great success. You go to heaven. Prabhupada set a different standard. He set very high standards. And he put the challenge out there. You know, you have to first regulate and then you have to stop. And stopping is only possible by replacing with a positive alternative. And you are so full of Krishna consciousness. I saw it actually in practice. I saw a couple approaching the spiritual master. I was really entertaining. It's a long time ago, but it was very, because I kind of played a role that I was always had to sit in a room because he was a sannyasi, so he didn't want to talk alone with a woman or something like that. But he was approached by a couple like this, and they said, "There's no use we live together. Why should we live together? You know, we want to separate. No divorce, but we want to separate because what's the use? We are the whole day doing service. We hardly see each other. We are fully absorbed in devotion. Why should we live together?" And he looked at them like this, and he said, "Why not?" And they couldn't come up with any answer, really. This is ideal. You don't have to give it even up. Why? Because you're already doing what you will do anyway later on too. Therefore Bhaktivinoda Thakur was realistic. He's already coming. So he didn't actually, even his son was, you know, the top Naishti Brahmachari sannyasi, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj. Bhaktivinoda didn't saw it, he didn't push it. Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj just was naturally like that. But Bhaktivinoda didn't push it. He said, for Kali Yuga, sannyas, dangerous. I asked this question to Jayaveda Maharaj last time he was here. Why did Prabhupada give sannyas? Because most of them, they gave it up. That's the statistics. So, he was cool, as usually Jayaveda Maharaj is just a very cool Brahmana. So he said, if you preach, you need sannyas. It's part of it.
You need what?
You need sannyas if you preach. If you start a movement, a spiritual movement, you need all the ashramas to be demonstrated. And it's amazing, even the sannyasa, in ISKCON doesn't have let's face it, doesn't have a very glorious, reputation. Still, we see everywhere, devotees are so willing to extend so much credit towards that ashrama. Because actually it should be like that. Sometimes we do things in Krishna consciousness because we respect what Prabhupada has given. The person involved, sometimes there might be a problem. If you don't want to see it, it's your choice. It's difficult. And you get all these Jesus. As one of my Gopals said, one simple is forced to walk around with open eyes. You're not willing anymore to go falling. But you see things. It's reality. Nevertheless, that ashrama should be, and it should be respected. Because we are respecting not only Vedic culture, we are respecting what Srila Prabhupada gave. That doesn't mean we have to follow any foolishness, but in essence, the principle should be respected. Same thing with brahmacharya. Grihasthas, as Prabhupada mentions even here, Grihasthas have this attitude by looking a little bit on the brahmacharyas. We didn't develop yet. Underdeveloped grihastha. It's called brahmachari. Unfortunately, in quite some cases, it's true. Still, it's a brahmachari. And he took to that. Saffron is not a joke. It's highly respected in India, still. Saffron is not a joke. It's a serious thing. So one should actually respect there is a saffron. And one should actually extend that credit. Since you are walking like this, you should, and that's actually very much helping. Prabhupada did that. It was the secret, one of the secrets of his preaching. He extended us in credit. You are a devotee. And then everybody was thinking, well, if he treats me like this, then I have to act like a devotee. Prabhupada embarrassed us by his very dignified approach. And it was real. He was not playing any games. It's just a letter I read yesterday. He said, you were all sent to me by Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, and you must have been engaged in devotional service in previous life. So I'm just assisting you to continue what you already acquired. It's a very, very humble approach. And this kind of dignified attitude, Prabhupada makes us feel really embarrassed. So embarrassed that you couldn't do exactly the very same simple thing you wanted to do just now. You couldn't. Because he extended the trust. You are the devotee. You are the right man for Krishna. So please, serve him. It's very nice. And then you were like, yeah, actually I have to serve. It's a very, very wonderful platform. Prabhupada actually gave this trust and this faith to people. Yes, I can make it. I can make it. I can be a devotee. I don't have to be that kind of animal I used to be. So it's difficult to reproduce it without being sentimental, but it's a wonderful way to inspire people. So anyway, this story will go on of, Grihastha versus Brahmachari. That's the issue here. Which Prabhupada was commenting upon in times, I think, already here at this time, where ISKCON was threatened by conflict between the upcoming Grihasthas and between the remaining Brahmacharis and Sannyasis. It was a heavy crisis. Because there was immaturity on both sides, so one became proud, the other one became obstinate, it became more like this. Because also it's not easy to tell somebody be Grihastha without having any system for that. Grihastha needs support. Vedic culture means that every member of that society is supporting each other. The Brahmacharis, by being actually maintained by Grihasthas, not going out like they are still facing the same challenge after 40 years. Brahmacharis to go out and maintain himself. He has to collect so he can eat. This is not Vedic. In Vedic times, Brahmacharis were simply collecting to engage the Grihastha in devotional service. They gave everything to the Guru, and that was it. It was for the benefit of the Grihastha, not for the survival of the Brahmachari. This is, Shastra says, the Brahmacharis and Sannyasis are like children of society. They have to be automatically maintained by the state, by the government. You're not supposed to struggle here to pay the rent. You're supposed to be financed by Danish government. Yeah, you try to suggest that. You can be happy they don't kill you. They don't tax you even more. So this is unfortunately the problem, and it's still here, and we have to deal with that. Well, proportionally because of the mercy is increasing. Krishna sees how Vedic we try to be in a totally non-Vedic environment. We are still in the pioneer stage, But ideally, we should not bother with these things. We should just go around and preach. And be simply engaged in preaching Krishna consciousness, not in a struggle of maintenance. But we have to take it and live with it. That's how it is. There's some comments to this questions here.
Regarding Shreyas and prayers, passion and goodness, because they're very connected, we see that most people, maybe even sometimes most devotees, are more on the level of passion, and therefore also work more on the level of prayers. So, and you mentioned the culture that the brahmachari should not. Prabhupada actually mentioned in a purport that the brahmacharis are not being maintained in the beginning of the first chapter of first canto, that brahmacharis are not being maintained. So how do we change that attitude, like getting more into the mode of shreyas or less in the mode of passion?
One very powerful thing is that passion is arising by fruitive activity. So the more we get detached from fruitive activity, the more the less we are affected by passion. So at least that much we can do to set the goals right. Not I have to get this and I have to get that and get this and get that and and me and mine. This concept we can work upon. That's practical. That's practical. That's our power, that we can take it easy. What me and mine. So then that's our power. Don't buy me off with some promise of some me and mine and it's amazing. Coming close to a kind of growing grihastha community, I just got a little taste of that. It's amazing. This power generated from me and mine, it's power. But how far does it go? I just experienced one grihastha. His wife said, for 10 years, we were building up a big business. It was finished in 2 months. 0. Vanished. That's realization. That's what you get. But she didn't say it in a renounced mood. She said it in a frustrated mood. A devotee will take such an experience like, oh, listen, why should I start again? But Prabhupada wanted Grihastha to be, economically successful. He wanted that. And being charitable. This is also sometimes misunderstood. And it takes time. And also Prabhupada gave exactly ideas what type of business should be done. And that also takes a lot of goodness. Go to the land, it's not so much of a passion there, Yeah, you work hard, that's okay, but it's not a big business in that regard. It can, you're lucky. But just being kind of self-sustaining, creating a society which can live just from that land, that's preaching, that's very successful, but not very popular in Kali. We have young people who just have zero experience of this. It's very difficult to preach this. Farm-oriented communities. What? We are all internet people. Ape and his ape and that thing and pushing the buttons and tough. It's a long way to go. But Krishna may understand. 40 years is not much. And as history showed, there is going to be some kind of destruction. Periodically it comes. All this will go. And then it's going to be the land again. We have to go back to this. People are still, they have too much money and too much time. And you give this to Shudra, it's only misery coming. Sudras have too much money and too much time. This combination is brilliant. So, we have to see our preaching and our progress in the timing of many lifetimes. And we're just doing a little thing here, a little chapter of a much bigger picture. We are part of something, just doing our little contribution here. What else can we do? Till we become an old, frustrated man. We didn't spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. Just imagine if Prabhupada become like this, we wouldn't sit here today. That optimism, in a practically dying, renounced state of his life, he just gets on a ship and gets in a crazy country and speaks to crazy people and, and suddenly it's happening. And that optimism Prabhupada maintains throughout the whole Bhagavatam. This purpose, that's how it should be, here we go, and that's it, and then there's no sign of melancholy or some frustration. One can learn from that. It's just one lifetime. It's a little contribution and then we go again. That's what we can do. Prabhupada said, only one moon, if I can get one moon, it can replace all these stars. One moon. It's a pretty humble, idea. So, be happy with whatever day, whatever little thing we can do today. That's it. Prabhupada could think very small with a very big picture. It's amazing how Prabhupada, he had such a grand visions and grand, concepts to live up to. But he never forgot the small detail. He never forgot the little man on the street who was trying to do these things. And as a matter of fact, he started just with these few people. When I read the testimonies of my Prabhupada how this movement started, it dawns upon me. It was done just by a few people. The rest was decoration, Hare Krishna explosion, thousands of Hare Krishnas. Yes, it was like that. But these thousands of Hare Krishnas were also going against thousands of Hare Krishnas, They got some effect. There was some benefit for sure. But at the core, it was just few people. Few devotees. Few devotees collecting, and few devotees managing, and few devotees. The band around Prabhupada was not that big. Not that big. And in every temple you see it. It's always like few. Everywhere you go. And the rest comes and goes and, does their thing, more or less. Prabhupada called it the intimate circle of disciples. He called it in connection to Gaudiya. There was an intimate circle around Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj. But that's what we can do. Going, oh no, it's not happening. Yeah, it gets to you sometimes. Yeah, you think, what? When is this going to happen? Why there are hundreds of thousands of people in Denmark walking on the street with a full confidence Krishna doesn't exist? So what? Prabhupada had the same result. Prabhupada had the same atmosphere he was preaching into. So what? But I believe, as Masama Prabhupada said, a time will come, people will realize what this movement meant and what an impact it make on this planet. They don't want to. They don't want to. Even those Prabhupada very personally associated, I give a very simple example. There's a big anthology, it's called a big documentary about George Harrison, Beatles, their lives, their leelas, their pastimes, There's a big section, Beatles joining Maharishi Maharaj Yogi, transcendental meditation and going to Rishikesh and meditating with him. So one Prabhupada. And they spent actually almost more time with Prabhupada, who was living in the estate of John Lennon and Yoko Ono and all this. It's not one word. You think, what else go down? They could say at least some.